Because the assumptions in the long-term plan need to be backed up by an evidence base to satisfy audit. So we took a very conservative assumption which assumes a worst-case scenario, and that's the appropriate thing to do in a financial forecast. That does not reflect our position or the Mayor's position going into a negotiation with the government. They're quite separate things.
Are there any further questions of John or our CE? In that case, Mr Darby, Councillor Darby, your move.
Or your second.
I'm happy to second.
I'll have Councillor Fletcher will second.
Yep, happy to do this one. Really, this is a product of our successful negotiations. Maybe we're just the team's moving a bit quicker than we expected, and good on them. All aspects here are about root protection and enabling works. We've already committed to that. No news there. Just a good clean breakdown. Kiwi Rail transfers makes a lot of sense. And precinct, another 600k there. I lost the battle, but some small wins in there, and that now we've got a 5-star Green Star rating applying to the whole development, better quality. The leases, I'm aware, I've been approached by possibly one of those 9 purchases or 3 leases. There are people held up on purchasing other properties to accommodate themselves. So there is a problem there. Unless we respond to them, we could find ourselves having to renegotiate contracts. And also the 3.4 for the consenting, Britomart designation variation, critical there. I'm aware, I don't want to mention too much detail here, but we have got some, I know a multinational that has got a South Pacific operation that has to be homed, and we need to do that work now. So this is a good outcome, all within what we've considered before. Let's go with it.
Thank you, Councillor Darby. Councillor Penrose.
Are we just talking to the
open debate?
Yeah, cool. Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm probably coming from a wee bit different angle, Mr. Chair, but I want to put it on the table. And I totally get that, all we're looking here is moving cash flow forward. And I totally get what part of the discussions that we took place end of last year with regards to the CRL. But where I'm coming from is a sales pitch for Auckland. Yesterday, after length, Councillor Wood and myself managed to get Auckland Transport to come along to Community Safety and Development Committee yesterday to give us an update on our safety on our trains. And for the last 4 years now, we have continued and continued and continued to advocate for safety on our trains, and it's number one, it's paramount, absolutely paramount. What I continue to hear, I had 2 sides of it. One is I hear, yes, the CRL will deliver X, Y, Z, and then I have other people saying to me, it's going to be the drain of Auckland, it's going to come at a cost to some of our parks, recreation, activity areas, and so on. What I'm asking for, and while the Mayor is present here, is a bit more emphasis, a bit more pressure onto Auckland Transport. It's not hard to deal with community safety. Now, yesterday we heard discussions about ambassadors, I'm talking about Maori wardens and Pacifica wardens, and Mr. Chair, and I'm probably deviating a wee bit here, but and I have to get this off my chest today because this is part of whether I support this or not today.
Yep.
But Maori wardens and Pacifica wardens, they do an outstanding job. But young people today just have no respect for them. And if we don't start coming down hard on these young guys, we're not going to get those numbers on those trains and get them off our southern networks and get people into public transport. And if I use the word dicking around with this process, we're not going to move forward. We've got to take a hard-line approach on these rat bags that continue to disrupt and destroy the good work that we're trying to do for the people of Auckland. And I'm saying we need to either, what we see overseas in different parts of the globe, where we have trained police or the likes, to take some control of these young people and deal with them. Otherwise, we can't go out there and sell this particular product to the people of Auckland. So, Mr. Mayor, while you're sitting here, what I'm pledging for is, please work with AT, put some pressure on those guys, because they don't listen to us as elected members, whether you're councillors or board members. We're just ignored, and put some pressure on these guys. Councillor Wood and myself, for 4 years now, we've been talking about the change of legislation, working with these guys in regards to the train evasion. People not paying their fares on the trains. you know, they can get that legislation changed tomorrow, but unless there's somewhere of meaningful to enforce that, nothing's going to change. I rest my case.
Thank you. Councillor Penrose talking about a whole of program, whole of project approach to deliver a good
It's
result.
got to sell
Thank
this
you.
to the people of Auckland.
Further speakers?
Yeah, I'll speak here.
Councillor Wood.
Well, I'm going to say that, quite frankly, I'm nervous as to where this project is heading at the moment. We're talking about a project that's was 2.86 million, now it's 2.4 million because we've cut a few things out. But
2.5.
I was very interested last week on Friday. Some of you were here for the stakeholders group, and we had a senior member of Auckland Transport here, and he wasn't aware that we're ploughing ahead with this project, and the government's we're only putting down 960 million for the government, 1.45 billion from the ratepayers of Auckland. That's the offices that what we got when we were given the details for the annual plan. Huge difference. And that doesn't take into account what the government is going to come back to us with when these negotiations take place in 2017.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order, please.
Point of order.
Yeah, look, here's the problem I have with where the debate's going right now, and I'd like you to bring it back onto the paper. We're now going, the learned councillor next to me over here is starting to conflate two totally different discussions. One is in the broader context of whether it rolls out, whether we get government support, etc., and we've debated that. The issue on the table today was quite a simple issue. Do we support the recommendations of this paper or not? If you're going to allow Councillor Wood and others to start to extrapolate wider than that, you bring in another contest in terms of a debate that we've already had.
Thank you, Member. You are correct, but I was allowing Councillor Wood the opportunity to express his views because he's had long-term views on this. And I'd ask you to bring those to a fairly rapid conclusion, Councillor.
I thank Mr Tamahiri for the input that he's just had. I haven't heard him saying too much about this in the past, but it's good to hear that he's talking about
Deeply
it.
interested.
Well, thank you. That's good. The views that Councillor Penrose just put up as well. I just wonder what is happening
Point
here.
of order.
need a-
Point of order.
Well, Councillor Lee, you're the best
Order,
one.
point of order, please.
Please take
Mr.
the hint.
Lee. We need to focus on the discussion that's in front of us, Councillor, please. Do you have any additional points
Well, I think
to
I've
add?
made my point. I've made my point.
Indeed you have, sir.
We're-
Thank you.
We're in a pretty difficult situation.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Further items for discussion?
There are none.
The motion is that we agree to bring forward 17.7 million of CRL-related expenditure to allow the CRL project team to progress earlier land purchases, investigation and design work in readiness for the enabling works in late 2015. Moved by Councillor Darby, seconded by Councillor Fletcher.
Aye.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? No. Do you want those noted? Yes.
Yep.
No, against were Quacks, Brewer, Wood
Yeah.
And Stewart.
and Stewart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as this meeting has jumped from one place to another, I, like you, I imagine, are slightly confused where we're up to, but I believe we have items 14 to do? 11 and 14. It is now 1 o'clock, people. We have one complication, and that is that the local alcohol policy deliberations start at 3. I am in your hands, but I'd very much like to proceed with these last two items quickly to get...
I'll move the item, Mr Chair.
You want to move it? Okay.
That's item
Right.
11 we're
Right,
talking,
we'll
is
drive
it?
through it then. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
So it's been moved and seconded. I've already spoken to officers about the item.
You happy?
I'm more than happy.
Well, I'm going to speak
Hang on.
against this.
Order, please. Order. Thank you.
We're hungry, that's the problem. Blood
Have
sugar.
a glass of water or a cup of tea.
I don't have the reserves.
Lunchtime, I think.
Happy to take the item as read, Mr Chair.
Come on, I think it's...
Order, please.
Item 11.
Order. We'll hear from the officer
Yeah. we've got to do
briefly.
this one.
Quick questions, and then we'll move. Thank you. Your hands.
Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Viv Sherwood and I'm from the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Department. And with me I have Fran Hayton, who's the Program Manager for Retrofit Your Home. The recommendation before you was, I'll keep it very brief. We are requesting an increase in the financial assistance available for this program for the current financial year. We currently have $6 million available, and we have spent $5.9 million to date.